right, welcome back. Tom McDonald here, and a little bit of a different spin on the show. And I can say in all the 40-plus years that I've been doing sports in New York, I've never interviewed a guy in his fatigues. And I welcome Captain Boyd Melson to the show. Captain.
Honor to be here, sir. Thank you.
I salute you. And also, when he's not doing his Army duty, you're a boxer, and you have a full-time job, and now you're in the Army Reserves.
Yes, sir.
And you went to West Point.
Yes, sir.
How did you get to West Point? I've always wanted to know how somebody gets into West Point.
That's the question I ask myself often to see if I made the right decisions when I see people enjoying themselves at a traditional college. So my father's a retired soldier. He spent 6 years in the Navy. Then he went over to the Army, put a career in, 26 years service combined. My mother served 4 years as well. My parents met in Germany together.
How about that?
Yeah, right. My father was an instructor for her on one of her courses. I guess there was some fraternization going on.
Yeah, you know.
So my father always promoted West Point when I was growing up. Both of my parents did. And I wanted to be a doctor originally. And I knew if you go to West Point, the small percentage, 2%, about 20 cadets they'll take and put into med school if you earn a slot in med school at first, and then you also have to be a good cadet.
And your dad wanted you to go in, A, because he was a lifer, as we say in the military, and B, it's a free ride.
Absolutely.
Now, how did you get in? Because you told me before some of your high school grades were okay, but you were able to get in because of your dad. So share that with the audience.
So you have to earn a congressional nomination to get in, meaning one of your congressmen each get 2 nominations to give per high school students applying.
Okay.
So if your parent had a Purple Heart, died in service, or retired from the military, then you can apply for a presidential nomination, which is what I did. So I earned that way through my father. That was that aspect. Now, I kind of slid under the radar the other way because I'm of mixed races. My father's Louisiana Creole, light-skinned black with the light color eyes. And so West Point, what they try to do when they bring their incoming class in, they try to mirror whatever the demographics are in the Army for the officer corps with what they're accepting. So if the Army's 80% Caucasian for officers, they're going to want us to accept 80% Caucasians for incoming cadets. So, like with the
because your dad was African American.
He still is African.
Well, you know what I mean.
I'm just
African American. but you face two sides. We were talking about prejudice before you came out.
Correct.
Before, and your mom is what?
My mother's Jewish. I'm born in Israel. Her parents. We lost our grandfather recently. So both parents survived the Holocaust together. They're from Poland. And my first cousins and myself were first-generation American from my mother's side.
Okay, so you go to West Point, and you wanted to be a doctor, and all of a sudden, you wind up as a boxer. How did that come about?
At all 3 military academies, boxing, it's called plebe boxing, when you're a plebe, based off the Roman term.
Plebe meaning a freshman?
Or bottom of the barrel.
The bottom of the barrel, right.
But when you're a plebe, you have to take a boxing course. It's called plebe boxing. And if you speak to many West Pointers, you could 4-star generals, talk about West Point, the first thing they'll talk about is their plebe boxing.
I hear it.
The average kid, outside of maybe cadets that were brought into the school for football or hockey, have never really gotten into a fight growing up. You know, they were good kids going in, top academics, top all.
But you had no fighting background, right?
Correct. But I loved contact always. I was the knucklehead in my family, always starting fights with my brother and sister. I was a younger kid who used to hang out with the older kids.
So you get in and you make the boxing team.
Well, I took plebe boxing. I did really well. And the idea is not to turn you, it's half a semester, it's not to turn you into this great boxer so you can go fight in the Golden Gloves. It's to teach you to face your fears. You have 4 graded bouts at the end of the semester. There are 2 1-minute rounds, which I almost died in, running out of gas. My first appreciation for boxing. As long as you don't turn your head like this when someone's pounding on you, and look for hope, they're going to they'll pass you. You have to pass that course to graduate.
So you do that, and then as you progress through West Point, all of a sudden they say, oh, this guy's pretty good. Maybe he can make the Olympic team.
Not from West Point. Maybe he can make the program in the Army called the World Class Athlete Program, where your job is to train and compete year-round, nationally and internationally, if you're good enough, and your mission is to earn a spot on the Olympic team.
And you made it as an alternate?
Correct.
All right, so you come out of the point, you serve your time, and after your time is served, all of a sudden, now you're working for Johnson & Johnson, right?
Correct.
Have you talked to Woody at all about the Jets? No, I guess, all right. Anyway, so now you've got a full-time job there, you're in the Army Reserve, and you're boxing. Boyd, that is a full plate.
And I teach fitness classes at the Equinox gyms when I have time.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So you're constantly in motion. All right, and so we're going to show some of the video of him training, talk about a warming heart story of him meeting somebody that had a spinal cord injury and how you have now focused your professional boxing career donating your money to that charity. So when we come back, we'll, all right, so so you met this young woman, right? And she was confined to a wheelchair. Take the story from there.
I met her out at a dance club at the end of my junior year at West Point.
And there she is right there, right? Yeah, and you were in love with her at the time, right?
Yeah, I absolutely was. I didn't know you had that footage.
Oh, yeah. That's what we try and do. All right, so talk about that. So she's confined to the wheelchair, and that's when you decide that you're going to dedicate your boxing career to get her to try and be able to walk and overcome the spinal cord injury.
It wasn't at that moment. At first, we became friends, a little bit more than friends. I was supposed to go to Germany, to V Corps, to serve traditional Army role as a field artillery officer. Went down, sparred at the World Class Athlete program. They still didn't want to bring me in, but West Point made some concessions so I could stay at West Point to teach freshman year boxing after I graduated so that I can compete in the All-Army tournament. I went there and competed against the top guy in the World Class Athlete program, and I beat him. I had no business beating him, but I beat him.
On points?
Yeah, on points.
Okay.
And on points. Good. And then they invited me, and then they said we were going to, and then I won the Armed Forces Championships, and then I went to the Olympic trials in '04.
And you were an alternate?
Right. I lost to Austin Trout, who just beat Miguel Cotto.
No kidding.
Yeah, sure did.
I'd be proud of that fact.
But who you lose to is who makes you proud.
Yeah, but he's a heck of a fighter. So you go ahead and you meet this young woman, and you found out about spinal cord injuries, and you get sweet on her, I guess.
It was as I started loving her more, and as I started understanding her spirit and her heart, and it spoke to mine, our ethos together, intertwined. It took about a year, and after about a year, I started hearing stem cell medicine on the news all the time, but no one really knew what it was. This is around 2003, and I would ask her mother, but her mother was busy with work, and just people didn't know. And I would even speak to clinicians, MDs. They didn't really know too much. And I learned at an early time in my life that if you don't have an MD or a PhD at the end of your name, you better know your stuff to gain their trust, or they're not going to open up to you.
I hear you. So you, at that time, then decide that you're going to champion this young woman's cause.
But I always told her, the moment you don't want this any longer, I'll stop pushing. I don't want you doing this because it's for me. But she broke her neck at 10 in a diving accident, and I met her 9 years post, and since then we're 19, a little over 19 and a half years post-injury. She just wants to walk. She's always
didn't you have at one time, if I recall, that you had her actually strapped up and she was able to move her legs on a treadmill? What was it like to see that? That must have been just overpowering.
It's the first time I saw, she was able, with leg braces on that locked her legs out, and a walker. I remember I went over to her house. I think I came home from, I don't know when it was, maybe it was during my senior year at West Point. I came home, and her therapist was with her, and first time I ever saw her erect, and her legs locked out, and I saw her willing her nickname's Woodstock, that's and I'm Snoopy, so willing her little self forward, and I started tearing up. I mean, you take for granted being able to hug someone while they're standing up, what that's like. It's amazing.
Amazing. We have to, when we come back, we're going to discuss more of this and get into his boxing career. You're going to be on the Barclays card in
February 9th.
On February 9th. And a couple of New York guys are going to be there. Zab Judah's going to be there, right?
Paulie Malignaggi, Marcus Brown,
yeah,
Jacob,
great.
Dimitri Salita.
And Boyd Melson.
Yes, sir.
And that money will go, all of that money will go to spinal cord.
And Johnson matches it 2-1. And last fight, Oscar De La Hoya matched it.
Now you got to call. Now you got to call Woody up. Sports1 at ny1.com is our email address because he can afford to match. And to call us up and to be a part of the show tonight with I think one of the more interesting fighters that we've had on the broadcast, Boyd Melson, 212 NY1TALK. And welcome back here, Tom McDonald, along with Army Captain Boyd Melson, who has a full-time job, also trains people, and in his spare time, he fights professionally, and you're what, 10-1-1 right now?
Yes, sir.
And then you're going to fight on, nobody called me sir since the military, it's weird to hear it. He fights at the Barclays Center February 8th? 9th. And who's on that card? Malignaggi's on that card? Dimitri Salita's on the card?
He's fighting Hector Camacho Jr., Hector's first fight post his father's passing.
Wow, that'll be big.
Absolutely.
And do you know who you're fighting yet?
And they gave me a name. I said yes. We're waiting to see. His name is Joshua Snyder, S-N-Y-D-E-R. I'm waiting to hear if it's official, but that's the name we suggest, and he's very tough.
All right, so we're going to show you one video of one of your fights, and it's difficult to get them because you're on the undercard, you know, and a lot of times your fights aren't televised. So take a look at here as we watch on YouTube. Which color trunks are you in?
I'm in the black and gold Army colors, West Point colors.
Okay, and so you're taking the fight to him. It looks like you're working the body.
This was the 4th round. It's about to get stopped, so I remember I eat one coming up here.
You did eat one here?
Yeah, I think about it, because he wasn't punching, and I got a little I got a little overzealous. His left hand, there it was.
There you go.
But I took it like a champ. So.
Yeah. And then you went right after working to the body, and at this point in time, you knew you had him?
Absolutely. He was fading. And he just gave me his best punch that I did my Pac-Man and gobbled it up. Going forward.
Okay, so
this was my 4th fight.
This is the 4th fight. How many fights do you have as an amateur, by the way?
Including as a cadet?
Yeah.
I would say maybe 90 fights.
90 fights. All right, so there, the victory was. Where was this fight, by the way?
That was at the Roseland Ballroom.
Oh yeah, I love that as a spot.
There's no bad seat in the house.
No, there is not a bad seat, and you know, usually it's a sellout, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so do a lot of people now follow you and know of your boxing acumen? And to be honest, I've seen 2 of your fights, and you're okay.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm doing my best.
I know you are, but when you go into the ring, you're usually doing what now? 4-rounders or 6-rounders?
6. I have 1 8. I've been asking for an 8 for my last 3 fights, but they haven't had space on the card. And after this fight, I'm not accepting anything less than an 8 because I'm not progressing any further.
Because in other words, the 8 and up is more money for you, right?
It's more money to donate, absolutely. The one fight I had for an 8 was the fight against Delenn Parsley, which is what I'm known for now in New York in the boxing world. They said it was maybe the top 2 fights on the Broadway boxing, Lou DiBella's boxing show that he has of all time that they've ever seen. It was a war and a half. It was incredible. I think it took some years off my life, that fight.
I'm absolutely positive that it does. Now, do you interact with Malinaji and those guys? Because Malinaji's been on the show one time, and he never minces words.
Yeah, when I see him, I do. I got a real nice text from my friend saying that when Paulie was flying out to the Ukraine to fight Senchenko to win the world, when he won the world title, when he was going through the security at the airport, my friend's sister worked there, and she saw him, saw the boxing stuff, brought up my name, and Paulie just started talking about how angry he was for how bad I got robbed at my 1 loss, and she texted me that he said that.
Really?
I was like, man, that's Paulie Malinaji saying that. That's incredible, being a fan myself.
All right, other than, you know, your charity work and wanting to, and donating all your money and a lot of people matching it, where do you feel that your boxing career is going to take you? Because to be honest with you, I've never met an Army captain that was boxing professionally. Right? Can you recall any of them?
No officers.
No, right? No, not officers, right?
I know officer on my team and the amateurs also.
Yeah, but I mentioned, so where are your goals looking to take you as you're in the professional rank? Because you already have a real job, and then you have your Army ROTC, your Army Reserve jobs. You know what I mean? I mean, so where do you expect to go as a boxer?
I don't know. It's one training camp at a time, literally, 1 punch at a time. I'm hoping to use this as my conduit to expand my volume for my talking about Team Fight to Walk and raising funds for this specific clinical trial to cure spinal cord injuries in the U.S., this specific clinical trial. And as long as I can balance both, I'm going to stick with both. I'm hoping sometime.
How old are you?
31.
Wow, so that's
You're supposed to ask me that question.
Yeah, well, of course I'm supposed to ask you that question because people want to know. Going back to the spinal cord injury as 2 military, well, now I do know. You said that 7,000 young men that have battled in Afghanistan and Iran have come home with spinal cord injuries. So it's not just this affair that you had, this companionship you had with this one woman. This is a serious thing for the American military people. And for those that come home with this injury, a lot of their lives just deteriorate.
Absolutely.
Simple as that.
As I was sharing before, the average soldier is a soldier, not an officer. Officers are soldiers too, but for the vernacular, soldiers replying to enlisted or sergeants, they don't have a college degree. Whatever they plan on doing when they leave the military is going to involve a physicality for a living. You take that ability from them, you imprison them inside their bodies, especially if they're quadriplegic. meaning 4 limbs, neck down. It's a little different when you're a paraplegic. It's very different, actually.
Any kind of plegic is bad. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's weird. So, for people that want to help you and help your cause, how do they go about doing that?
So there's a nonprofit set up called Just a Dollar Please, where you can go to justadollarplease.org and donate.
Okay, simple as that. When we come back, we'll discuss that more. justadollarplease.org. And in America, how many people? 40,000 people? 50,000 people?
40,000 veterans, over 1.3 million Americans. Once every 41 minutes, we have somebody new that's paralyzed in our country.
When we come back, we'll have more of our discussion with Captain Melson. And like to hear from you. You can email us or call us up. Email address is sportson1@ny1.com. sportson1@ny1.com. And the telephone number is 212-NY1-TALK. Okay, so we have to wrap it up. Captain Boyd Melson on the show will fight at the Barclays Center on February 9th and donate all of the money that he makes, win, lose, or draw, to the spinal cord injury. And I just enjoyed your company. You're an honorable man, and I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
So on tomorrow's show, that's right, in case you want to watch it, former Jets quarterback Ray Lucas will be on the show tomorrow, and he'll talk about something that's close to my heart, and that's addiction. So for the captain, I salute you from my military days. My name is Tom McDonald, Captain Boyd Melson. Thanks for watching. Good night, everybody.